What's going on, everybody? Ab the Audicrat here. Today we are doing episode 6 of my beat breakdown series featuring my latest single, Travis. Let's get right into it and play the beat. This one is really simple, just made some drums, chopped up the sample, used the bass within the sample, didn't boost it too much, just let the kick drum kind of do its thing, and I'll break it down right now. Let's solo the drums. Some pretty straightforward boom bap drums, nice swing on it, kick, snare, hi-hat, pre-kick, and an open hat. Not a ridiculous amount of processing on this. For the kick, I have an F6, like always, taken down a little bit in 500, about 1K, rolled off on the bottom and the top. And then I have another EQ where I really went ham and did some big dips. I think on this one, what I was doing was I put a lot of processing on the drum bus itself, which I'll show you in a second, and then I kind of went back after I did the processing on the drum bus to kind of fix the kick. Sometimes I do that if I'm adding some distortion or a lot of stuff on the bus. Instead of trying to maybe dip out some stuff on the bus, sometimes I do go back to the original sound, so I think that's what I did here. I have a couple plugins I didn't end up using, another F6 for some reason, and a transient shaper. Very big on transient shapers with drums. Didn't have to use one on this track, though. And on the snare, I have an F6, roll off at about 125, high pass, and then a low pass, rolling off at about 9 or 10, and then attenuating, a little bit around 5, 6K wide Q. For the hats and the pre-kick, I did no processing outside of the drum bus itself. You can see in Mimic, I have the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, the open hat, which I did shorten up. The actual sample went a little bit long, and I didn't want to time stretch it back. I just gave it an end point here, and then the pre-kick. I also shortened this one up too. I think I didn't like the tail too much on that, and instead of putting a transient shaper on there, I just kind of shortened it up within Mimic. Now, for the drum bus. The pulverizer is an amazing unit that I do not use enough. I have used it from time to time, but I need to start revisiting this because it is excellent. The squash knob just demolishes it with compression. The dirt knob is for saturation, a release knob for the compression, and a tone arm for the distortion. Really dope filter features on this too that sound great. I had it on the basic pulverization setting. It's at about 70%. Sounds really good on drum buses though. I have an M-class equalizer given a big dip around 4K. Always keep in mind whenever you're adding distortion or saturation, you're almost always going to want to do some EQing afterwards. Not always. In this case, I did. A few more dips on the drum bus, about 4K and about 7 to 8K. It's coming in a little too hot. And then I also have Ozone Imager giving it some stereo width. I absolutely love this plugin. It is a very good imager. Everything under 1K I wanted to keep in mono. Well, I pulled it down quite a bit. There's a little bit of spread there just from the samples themselves, but not much. And then from 1K and above, I added 26 units of a stereo spread. Let's solo the sample, but I'm going to play it right before the chorus leading in and then part of the chorus. The first thing that stood out to me when I was chopping this sample is there's a hi-hat every half note hitting in the right speaker. It's panned hard right, and it was bothering me quite a bit. When you're listening to the beat, you can hear the hi-hat in the sample. It does sound like I was panning my drums a little bit, like the tail end of the snare kind of sounds a little bit to the right. Same thing with my hi-hat. Still sounds good overall, but one thing that I wish I could have tweaked a little better, but I did my best. This line right in the middle is the main bulk of the sample that I chopped up, and below it is a voice sample that's also part of that sample in different parts of the song that I had come in at certain spots. And this on the bottom is automation for a delay to kick in at either the whole part of that chunk or at the end of it. So you can see here in the chorus at the very end, same thing here, and it repeats later on in the song. Now let's break down how I processed the sample. I have everything going through an M-class compressor, giving it a nice little squash. Then I sent the kick to track spacer, attenuating about 190 and below of the sample, because the bass in the sample is what I use for the bass on this one, just to make sure that the kick was hitting through the sample. And then I have an F6. I have a dip at about probably 350, almost. Then around 2K, I have dynamic controls just taming this area to make sure the snare, the top end of the snare is kind of hitting through. That's really taking care of the voice sample within the beat to make sure it's not too loud. Up here, I'm also making sure that the hi-hat is getting taken care of within the sample as well, because it hits pretty hard, but again, tried my best to get it out, couldn't really do it. The last on the chain is Shep's Omni Channel 2 from Waves. So when you open up the EQ module, there's stereo settings, and at about 2K, I believe, I pulled back quite a bit on the gain to take care of the hi-hat that was hitting a little too much, and also to tame a little bit of the voice sample. This has a great preamp on this, amazing saturation, really powerful plugin. I should start using this one a bit more as well. And before we wrap it up, let's just go over the mix bus. First up is Infinity EQ, just rolling off anything under 20 hertz. Next up is the virtual mix rack from Slate. I have the mix bus module here for some saturation, additional saturation with the New York virtual tube collection, pulling back a tad on 4K. And then on Revival, I'm boosting the shimmer up to about 7. This gives a very nice shine and air to the top of your mix. Next up is Fresh Air from Slate Digital. A little bit of a boost on the mid-presence knob, nothing on the high air. And of course, MOTT is next. 61% dry wet, pulling back the high amount to about 50. Love the way this glues everything together. And then last up is Ozone 11, which I have on pretty much every beat. With my other beat breakdowns, I was disabling this because it adds quite a bit of latency, but I knew I wasn't going to be pressing any pads or, stopping and playing quite a bit, so I just let it rock. And that's going to wrap up this beat breakdown for Travis. Really straightforward beat, some boom bap drums, dope sample, just chopped it up a little bit, added the voice sample at different parts. No bass. The bass was within the sample itself, so there you have it. Thanks for stopping by yet again. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out my website, www.abtheaudicrat.com. I also have a mailing list if you're looking to get monthly updates from the month before, songs I released, beat videos I put out, etc. Let's end it with the full beat. Again, thanks for stopping by. Peace.